The unbreakable bond, Jennifer Tilly's silent vow. Have you ever witnessed a loyalty so profound, so steadfast, it defies every headline, every whisper in the gallery, every easy judgment? We live in a world quick to condemn, faster to abandon. But what happens when someone chooses a different path, a path of quiet, unwavering grace? For decades, Hollywood watched, puzzled, as Jennifer Tilly, the woman with the velvet voice and a mind as sharp as a tack, stood firmly by her sister, Sutton. While the world saw scandal, Jennifer saw a story untold. While commentators demanded distance, Jennifer offered an anchor. Today, for the first time, she pulls back the curtain on a choice that has been called foolish, brave, heartbreaking, and saintly, all at once. This isn't about scandal. This is about the sacred, surprising geometry of the human heart. But to understand the depth of her choice, we must first travel back to a beginning far from the glare of Hollywood. The foundation, a world built on secrets and solidarity. Long before Bound or Bullets Over Broadway, Jennifer and Sutton Tilly were two sisters in a house of quiet performance. Their father, Harry, was a used car salesman, a man whose own life was a study in reinvention. He was, as Jennifer would later confide, a professional liar. Not out of malice, but out of a desperate, grinding need to provide, to survive, to project success in a world that valued little else. In that environment, children learn to read the room. They become fluent in the unspoken. A raised eyebrow, a forced smile, the careful editing of a story over dinner. This was their early curriculum. But in that uncertain landscape, Jennifer and Sutton built a fortress for two. They weren't just siblings, they were co-conspirators in a game where the rules changed daily. They learned a brutal, beautiful truth. When the outside world is a theater of unpredictability, the only trustworthy audience is each other. This wasn't mere sisterly affection. This was a primal pact, a vow whispered in shared rooms. I see the truth of you, and you see mine, and that truth is our only constant. It was a bond forged not in perfect happiness, but in perfect understanding. And that, my friends, is a bond that time, distance, and even tragedy finds almost impossible to sever. But what happens when the private coping mechanisms of a challenging childhood collide with the ruthless, public arena of adult life? When the sister you pledged to understand becomes a headline you can't recognize? The cracks were about to show. And Jennifer would face a choice that would define her far more than any role she ever played. The crossroads, glamour versus ghosts. As Jennifer's star ascended, that unforgettable voice, that comic genius, that shimmering presence, Sutton's path spiraled into a very different spotlight. Not the flash blubs of premieres, but the harsh, fluorescent glare of courtrooms. Allegations, lawsuits, a narrative forming that painted her as a difficult, unstable, a problem. And the pressure on Jennifer began. Subtly at first, a manager's advice, maybe distance yourself professionally. Then, more overtly, tabloid headlines screaming, "Why won't Jennifer denounce her sister?" The public and the industry laid down their ultimatum. Your brilliant career or your troubled sister. Choose. Imagine that weight. The weight of a dream you've worked for your entire life on one shoulder, and on the other, the weight of a soul you've known since the beginning of your own. The world presented it as a simple equation: success equals separation. To stand by Sutton was career suicide, a betrayal of her own talent and ambition. But here is the first breathtaking twist in our story. Jennifer didn't see two weights. She saw a false choice. Because her ambition, her definition of success, was never the world's definition. It was rooted in that same childhood pact: authenticity over approval. She had spent a lifetime in an industry of make-believe, but her loyalty was the one thing she refused to fictionalize. So while the world waited for a dramatic renunciation, Jennifer did something utterly shocking in its simplicity. She showed up. She showed up at hearings. She answered invasive questions with a poised, "She is my sister." She never offered explosive soundbites or public psychoanalysis. She just remained, present, accounted for. In an age of public burnings, she offered a private shelter, and this silent stance was louder than any press release could ever be. But this choice came at a cost, a hidden, aching cost that Jennifer has only recently dared to speak aloud. The hidden cost, the loneliness of the loyal. This is the part of the story we rarely consider. We see the noble stand and imagine inner peace, but Jennifer confesses a more heartbreaking reality: profound isolation. Standing in the gap for someone means, at times, standing alone. Friends faded, unsure how to navigate the situation. Professional doors, once wide open, now seemed to have heavier latches. The phone rang less. The invitations became cautious. She was seen not just as Jennifer Tilly, the actress, but as that sister, a package deal with a problem the glittering world didn't want to solve. And then the most insidious whispers of all, from within. The 3 a.m. questions. Am I enabling? Is this loyalty or blindness? Am I sacrificing my one precious life for a sinking ship? This was her true crucifixion, not the public scorn, but the private doubt. The fear that in holding on so tight to her sister, she might be losing her very self. She describes years as a spiritual exile, living in a borderland between her sister's tumultuous world and the normal world that had politely asked her to leave. The weight was not of regret, but of a relentless, exhausting love. Yet in that exile she made a discovery, a revelation so powerful it would become the bedrock of her resolve and the answer to all those 3 a.m. questions. What she found was not about Sutton at all, but about a force far greater than both of them. The revelation, a love beyond understanding. Jennifer's breakthrough did not come on a therapist's couch or in a script. It came in the quiet persistence of her own heart. She realized she had been trying to understand Sutton with the world's logic, to diagnose, to justify, to explain, and she couldn't. The chaos, the pain, the patterns, they defied logic. So she stopped trying to understand. Instead, she chose simply to witness, to separate the person from the behavior, to see Sutton not as a series of problems to be solved, but as a human being to be loved, unconditionally. This wasn't about approving of every action. It was about affirming a fundamental worth that no mistake, no scandal, no public shaming could ever erase. Love, Jennifer explains, is not a transaction. It's not, I will love you if you get well, if you behave, if you make me look good. That's deal-making. The love she chose was a sovereign decision, a state of being. It was the love their childhood homes sometimes lacked, made manifest. In choosing it, she was not just saving Sutton, she was saving her own soul from the corrosion of conditional living. This love became her compass, not her shackles. It allowed her to set boundaries from a place of love, not instead of love. It was the surprising key that unlocked her prison of doubt. She was no longer a hostage to loyalty. She was a warrior of love. And a warrior needs a weapon. Jennifer found hers in the most unexpected of places. The unsung ally.